Welcome everybody to part 9 of the Neural Networks from Scratch series. In this part, we're going to be introducing the concept of optimization, why it's hard, and then we're going to be introducing the calculus that we'll be using to overcome this challenge. For the following code, you can feel free to write it out if you want by pausing the video, but it won't be necessary, so you can just sit back and watch. For this, we're going to be using a simpler dataset to start, which is nearly solvable with just some vertical lines, and then later in the video, we'll get back to our spiral dataset. For solving this with a neural network, we know that we can adjust weights and biases, and that the weights and biases impact things in different ways. But the question is, how do we adjust these so as to improve our model, which in our case means to decrease the loss? Doing this successfully would almost certainly require us to have some sort of idea of what adjusting each of these parameters individually might do. Let's get some intuition of the complexity of this problem. In an effort to avoid the calculus, you might wonder, what about just randomly searching or some halfway intelligent random search? So we'll make a model, define the loss, and set some variables to remember our lowest found loss and the weights and biases that got us to that point. Then we'll go through 100,000 iterations, randomly choosing combinations of weights and biases for both hidden layers. As a reminder, np.random.randn will produce a standard normal distribution of values for whatever shape you pass in the parameters. So in this case, if we just look at np.random.randn with parameters 2, 3, we get a 2x3 array of random values in a standard normal distribution. We'll continue this for each of the layer weights and biases. Each time you run the random.randn function, you get varying results, so this is how we'll somewhat randomly hunt for weight and bias combinations. With this, we'll do a forward pass, calculate the loss, and then if that loss is less than the previously lowest seen loss, we'll update our best weights and biases along with updating our lowest seen loss. If we run this, we will indeed see that the loss did decline some, but only just barely value-wise, and accuracy does not improve at all. So what could we do instead? We see that randomly searching for weight and bias combinations is probably going to take far too long. Again, the problem that we're trying to solve here is an extremely simple problem. This should be nearly instantly solvable. So randomly searching for weight and bias combinations is just going to be unacceptable on any decent problem. Maybe, rather than randomly searching for totally new combinations every single time, we could instead make random tweaks to the current best known weights and biases. All we have to change to do this is change the assignment to instead being a plus equals. If this adjustment decreases loss, then we'll keep it and we'll continue to try adjustments from this new point. Otherwise, the weights and biases stay exactly where they were before. Now, when we run with this concept, we can see that we've actually come up with an okay solution for this problem. We see continued progress for quite a while, and we end with about 0.17 loss and 93% accuracy. So again, all we did here was, rather than just randomly picking combinations of weights and biases, we just randomly tweaked from the last best known combination of weights and biases for the lowest loss value. So have we found a simpler way of doing optimization of neural networks? Is calculus not required at all? Well, remember that we're using that more basic vertical dataset, and that this dataset could be easily solved with just some perfectly vertical lines, and this would probably indeed get you 93% accuracy. So this is really just a dataset that we don't even need deep learning at all to solve. So now let's change from the vertical dataset back to the spiral dataset. This dataset still has clear and obvious classes, but is not solvable by just some vertical lines. We need a non-linear solution here. With the semi-random, logical-ish tweaking from the best weights and biases code that we used before, we can run this and see that the outcome, while it does learn, is still a loss that's greater than 1.0 and an accuracy that floats around 40%. It's of course still possible that we could continue tweaking the logic that we're using here for semi-random optimization, but even this spiral dataset is actually a very basic dataset for neural networks, and the complexity of a model required to learn this would be a pretty small model. But the problem with randomly searching is the search space, even if it's a very small model, the search space is still theoretically infinite. So this is still a huge problem with random search. Another issue here is that we're treating each of the weights and biases identically, when it's likely that certain weights and certain biases might be more influential and impactful than others. Also, in the end, it's likely we reached what's known as a local minimum. This is a concept we'll talk more on later, but definitely going to continue being a problem. We would have to add some further logic to help us get out of this. It turns out that hard problems are hard to solve, and this is why we turn to calculus, which can help us to intelligently navigate to a solution. The first step towards this navigation is understanding the impact of a variable on some function. In our case, that's going to be the impact of the weights and the biases on the loss per each sample, since samples too can impact the model differently. While the loss function is a function that we apply to a model's output, not the weights and biases, the weights and biases are directly influencing that model's output. So it's really the impact of the weights and biases on the loss function that we're interested in. Now let's start with a simple function to understand what we mean by impact. This function takes an input, x, and multiplies it by 2. Now let's add some code to visualize this, and we'll create some inputs, x, using Python's range, and then y will be the output. We can also graph this to get an idea for what it looks like. So with f of x equals 2x, or y equals 2x, what's the impact of x on y? In this case, it should be fairly obvious. It's 2. Y will always be double whatever x is. Another way to describe this impact in the case of a linear function like this is the slope, which is defined as the change in y over the change in x, or delta y over delta x. With a linear function, we can calculate the slope from any 2 points. Let's say x equals 0 and x equals 1. So that means point 1 would be 2x, or 2 times 0, so y would be 0. For point 2, that would also be 2x, or 2 times 1, so y would be 2. The delta for y in this case is from 0 to 2, so that's 2. The delta for x is from 0 to 1, so it's 1. So the slope is 2 divided by 1, meaning the slope is 2. In Python, we can calculate this by indexing y at index 1 minus y at the index of 0, dividing that by x at the index of 1 minus x at the index of 0, giving us again the same answer. The slope is 2. But what happens when we have a nonlinear function like 2x squared, which makes a graph like this? Depending on which 2 points that we use, the calculation for the slope is going to vary. So how do we measure the impact that x has on y in the case of a nonlinear function like this? Calculus proposes that we use the slope of the tangent line. The tangent line is the quote-unquote instantaneous slope between 2 points that are quote-unquote infinitely close on a curve. This instantaneous slope is also the derivative, and it should be noted that this can only be done on a continuous curve, so no sharp corners or anything like that. At least at the moment, we have no idea how to get these 2 infinitely close points on a curve, but we could approximate this by simply adding a very small delta from some sample point. Let's imagine that we'll use a delta of 0.0001. This means that point 1 would be 1, and point 2 will be 1 plus that tiny delta. Now, we'll calculate the slope between these 2 very close points, which gives us an approximate derivative of about 4. We'll soon learn that the actual derivative for 2x squared at x equals 1 is indeed exactly 4. The small difference here is because we're using an approximation technique. This is what's known as numerical differentiation, and it produces the numerical derivative. It's a solution where we just calculate the derivative, which is the tangent line's slope, by using 2 points that are infinitely, or at least in our case, sufficiently close. The further away the 2 points are for this calculation on a curve, the larger the inaccuracy is likely to be. So this is why we want to use 2 extremely close points. To help with visualizing this in Python, we'll modify our code slightly so that our graph is created with much smaller steps at a time, creating a smoother curve. Finally, for us to calculate this line, we need one more element, the y-intercept, or the b, in the equation for a line, which is y equals mx plus b. The slope of a line is handled in the mx part, and for now we're just saying the slope, m, is 1, for example, but we also need to know how to calculate the b variable if we want to visualize things. Since the equation for a line is y equals mx plus b, if we already know y and m, but we want to solve for b, we can use basic algebra to say b equals y minus mx. Or, using our code's variable names, b equals y2 minus the approximate derivative times x2. So the derivative is the slope. Applying this to our existing code, we can now calculate and draw a section of that tangent line, which you can see as a green line on the graph on the right. Taking this a step further, we can add a list of colors, move up the approximate tangent line function, and add the approximate derivative and b as parameters. Then we'll create a loop of 5 iterations with a for I in range 5, tabbing over the calculating and graphing code. We'll then replace x1 to be whatever I is. Then we're going to add a scatter so we can mark each point that we'll be doing this calculation of numerical differentiation with a dot colored uniquely for that specific point. And then finally, we'll be modifying our plot function to update with the new parameters for that approximate tangent line function, and we'll be adding colors. We can then run this, calculating the tangent lines and the slopes of those tangent lines for each point along the way using numerical differentiation. So again, what's the point of all of this? In order to intelligently know how to adjust parameters in a function to make some desired change, we need to be able to have some way of calculating the impact of those parameters on the output of the function. Now, a slight issue for us is that the actual function in a neural network is not so simple as having a single variable. Oftentimes, we're attempting to adjust millions or more parameters. Calculating derivatives using numerical differentiation would require multiple forward passes for a single weight or bias adjustment per sample. This is because, for each sample, we'll do a forward pass calculating the loss at the end. Then, for each weight and bias individually, one at a time, we'll add that small delta, do another forward pass, calculating the loss again. Then we'd revert that parameter back to the original state, choose a new one, add the delta, repeat the forward pass, and continue this for every single weight and bias in the network. Note that here we're only displaying the deltas and passes for each weight, but this would also be required for each individual bias too. And again, we'd need to be doing this process not only for every single weight and bias individually, but we'd need to be doing all of that per each sample. This would still most likely be a faster and more successful approach than doing things randomly, but we can still do a little better. We're definitely on the right track with derivatives, but using numerical derivatives in this way would be similar to brute forcing the problem or something like that. It would work, but it would be slower than ideal. For multivariate functions, instead of doing something like multiple forward passes for our neural network, we can use partial derivatives, which are indeed coming up. But first we need to cover the analytical derivative, which is the subject of the next tutorial. As you may be aware, if you are enjoying the content and want another medium to absorb the material with, you can check out the Neural Networks from Scratch book, which is fully complete for making, optimizing, and testing both classification and regression neural networks. You can get the ebook, hardcover, or softcover at nnfs.io. We've now sold over 10,000 copies at the time of this recording, which is pretty staggering. Thank you to all of you who have chosen to spend your time and/or money on learning this content, and I will see you all in the next video.